This is Nitya Ramachandra from the NR Hour Sports Show. This is episode 1052. We are live on all podcast platforms, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, and fans, please tune in. Everybody knows about the Spreaker app. You can tune in there and ask questions to our guests today. And today we have a really special guest, but first I'm joined by a special co-host today. His name is Jason from 161 River Ave. Check out his show. He does a great job with his show, and go follow him on Twitter. We're trying to promote his show. So thanks for joining me as a special co-host today for this episode. And today we're joined by a special guest. His name is John Jaso. Everybody knows him, a former MLB catcher and first baseman. He played for the Tampa Bay Rays, Seattle Mariners, Oakland A's, Rays again, and the Pittsburgh Pirates. And now he's a big traveler. I've seen his recent posts where he's traveling all over the world and experiencing new things. And man, what a great career he had. We're Yankee fans, and he used to be a Yankee killer against us. So, but really looking forward to this interview. But John, thank you for joining this, and we finally made this happen. And how are you and your family doing today?
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me. Everybody's doing great over here. It's just me and my brother. My mom recently moved out here to Florida, so it's us three out here, and we're all loving it right now because it's beautiful weather.
Yeah. So, Jason, you want to start it off?
Yeah, I mean, you're from Chula Vista, right? California?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What are the differences between living in California and Florida, just as from a Californian's perspective?
Well, shoot. I mean, weather's probably the biggest thing. We get a lot of sunshine out here. San Diego obviously gets a lot of sunshine, but we got the humid days, I guess. But the big thing for me is I live on the beach, so walking down to the Gulf over here is just it's beautiful. I mean, it's like one of those crack a beer, walk around the beach, crack another one on your way home kind of thing. And we got a lot of beach bars around here that I like also. And I don't know. I mean, the traffic was getting a little heavy there for me in Southern California for a while. So moved out, and I think it's a little bit of a slower pace living on the beach here.
I mean, I'm no stranger to traffic from New York. So I mean, you're about California, New York, the most traffic place around. So
for sure. I do miss the mountains though, I will say.
What's over there by Chula Vista Mountains? Is it that's not close to Big Bear, is it? Anyway.
Big Bear is like the ski park that is close by San Diego. But I grew up mostly in Northern California, so Humboldt County. Actually, I'm wearing a Humboldt shirt right now.
Oh yeah.
And so that's where I really grew up. My parents moved up there when I was like 5, and then when I played JC baseball, I moved back down to San Diego. So that was definitely growing up in the mountains and the woods up there in Northern California.
Wow.
Very cool.
Speaking of that, who would you say you looked up to while growing up in baseball, and what were some of the main players that you looked up to while growing up?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't really follow sports too much where I grew up since I was way up there in the sticks. But when I would go back down to San Diego to visit family, like over summer, like you get out of school, summertime, go down to San Diego, hang out. So it was always the Padres. So it was always like, Tony Gwynn, Ryan Klesko, those guys. And Gwen was always the guy growing up.
Wow.
Was he coaching at San Diego State for a little while, right? Wasn't he Steven Strasburg's coach?
Yeah, he was. I was actually hoping to go there coming out of junior college. But then I signed, and I actually signed a letter of intent to go to USD actually coming out of junior college. But yeah, Tony Gwynn was always around the area. Never got to meet the guy, and then he passed on a few years ago, which was kind of a big blow to San Diego and the community. But yeah, he was always fun to watch. I mean, it seemed like every time I went to a game, he was getting 2 hits.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think he was the best hitter probably I've ever seen.
Yeah,
especially on the left-handed side, he was.
Yeah.
One of the best.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, like you look up some of his accolades, and they're just absolutely mind blowing. I think there was one I remember him having consecutive plate appearances without striking out, and I think it might have been in triple digits.
Wow.
Yeah, for that era, that's pretty. I mean, that's pretty good. So
Yeah, we actually we had his son on the show 2 years ago, Tony Gwynn Jr.
oh
Um,
yeah,
yeah, he obviously former baseball player too, but now he's broadcasting with the Padres, and he talked a lot about his father and his legacy, and it was
yeah,
awesome to hear about his
yeah.
legacy.
John, if I can ask you, like, what was your? I mean, you said signing. What was your path? Like, how did it happen? Getting, signing, and I was just wondering because not having any personal experience with that, but I want to know what. And speaking
Yeah.
to you, the first person who's ever played in the major leagues who I've spoken to, so I just want to
Uh-huh.
know what your perspective on what your path was. Like, how did it happen for you?
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, so growing up, so doing the whole thing growing up in Northern California, like coming out of high school, I mean, there were no scouts up there, you know. My graduating class was, I think, like 83 kids or something. And so I had to leave and go somewhere else, but I wasn't really leaving and going somewhere else to like pursue professional baseball. It was more on an academic side. And then I also wanted to play baseball. I was kind of hoping that it would pay for my schooling.
Yeah.
And what I ended up doing was going back down to San Diego.
Hmm.
Um, I lived with my grandparents at this time and went to junior college. Did 2 years at junior college. In my second year, I had a pretty good season. And I signed a letter of intent to go to USD. I um, actually got an academic scholarship to go to USD. And I think I don't know, I probably had like 90% of my schooling paid for or something like that. And it wasn't until towards the end of my my final junior college year, that a scout kind of called me over, like between the chain link fence there while I'm like putting my shin guards on or whatever during a game and said, hey, has any professional scout like came and talked to you? And I said, no. I'm like, who are you? And he's like, well, actually, I'm with the Devil Rays at the time. And that was the first time I ever talked to a professional scout. And that's the first time I ever thought about playing professional baseball.
Wow.
And he invited me out to kind of like one of those showcase things that players go to at that age. And um, kind of showcase talent in front of all these different scouts. And all of a sudden, I had like four different scouts calling me from four different teams, wondering if I wanted to play professional baseball. I'm like, whoa, this is like becoming a thing. And then I decided I should probably get a cell phone. And I never had a cell phone at this time. So they were calling my grandparents' house. I got a landline. This is 2003, I guess, or 2002, something like that. And I guess that's when cell phones were started to become a big deal where everybody kind of has one, but these were like the old Nokia brick phones.
Yeah.
Anyway, got a cell phone and that started happening. And it finally came down to draft day, right? And I went in the 12th round. I think on day one, they do rounds 1 through 15 or something like that, maybe, or whatever. But I kept getting a call like, hey, will you sign? Because, they don't want to take somebody in a slot and then have you not sign and go play 4 year college or whatever, and then burn up a spot for them to sign somebody. And I said, yes, yes, yes. And finally, I got a call from the Devil Ray Scout at the time, Craig Wiseman, and said, hey, man, we just took you in the 12th round. Congratulations. I got to get going. Got more rounds to do, but you'll be hearing from me again shortly. And I was like, sweet. And I remember, running up the driveway at my grandparents' house and going in there and just being like, got drafted. And that was it. I mean, after that, went straight to.
Oh.
Oh, froze up.
Uh-oh.
Oh no,
Hang on.
froze.
Maybe he's just doing a blue steel pose for us. He's just kind of
He's a
wants to pose.
dang.
Unfreeze. Unfreeze.
Come on. Uh-oh.
Unfreeze.
Sorry, fans. We have some technical difficulties, technical things going on here. Hold on.
The excitement. Okay, that's a cool story. I gotta tell you.
Yeah.
It's real. I mean, it's just like one of the coolest things I've ever seen is just watching YouTube videos of guys getting drafted, getting
Mm-hmm.
the phone call. Oh, we lost him. It's gonna
Okay.
happen in a second. Getting the phone call, right? Whether you're a football player or a baseball player, it's got to be no better feeling than that,
Oh,
honestly.
definitely, yeah. Getting to your dream and living your dream and fulfilling it is just an amazing thing to see,
Yeah.
and then being with their families too.
Ah,
Yeah.
it's like that. And the only other thing I compare it to is the NFL Hall of Fame knock.
Yeah.
The place goes nuts. Like
Yeah.
I can only imagine what that stuff feels like. It's really really cool, man. Really really cool.
And it's not going to be the same without John Madden doing that.
Yeah, so true, so true. John Madden's a living. I mean, he's a legend, man.
Yeah.
He'll be a legend, and
Oh,
he'll be. Yes, there you go. He's coming back on. And
oh.
there he is.
Hey, I don't know what happened,
Oh,
but I
that's
don't know
what
if
this.
my story got cut out, but
Luckily, this happened to us a couple of days ago when we had Adam Pac-Man Jones on the show.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Where did I cut out at?
You were getting the call saying I was drafted and whatnot, and we were just
Oh,
talking.
good. So you heard pretty much the whole story. All right, good.
Yeah, we did. We were just
That
talking
was
about how
it.
cool
Yeah.
because I watch YouTube videos of the phone call, right? Of the
Yeah,
like, and it's so cool to see somebody in your position getting drafted and your reaction to it and how it feels. Like I can only
yeah,
imagine what that would be like, and it's such a cool experience. And I mean, what 0.0001% of people in the world get to experience it? And you're one of them. That to me is the epitome of
yeah.
nothing cooler than that, man.
It
Really.
was definitely an unforgettable moment. And I know like my younger brother he was in high school. He was probably like a sophomore or something in high school. And this is when like computers started becoming a thing in the classrooms. And he was on his computer just watching the ESPN thing, the whole time. His computer and his teacher like told him like, get off the computer, he's like, I don't care. My brother's about to get drafted.
Oh,
And I guess it happened while he was in class on the computer. And
wow.
it's like my brother's drafted. So
Wow.
it's just a big
That's
deal from where we're at because it's a small town. So
Yeah. So
yeah.
we are live with former MLB catcher, first baseman John Jaso. We have a fan question for you that just popped
All
in
right.
the app here. One of our fans want to know. They want to know what was some of your best moments as a player in the major leagues. Especially, they want to know your best moments in the AL East.
Oh, especially in the AL East.
Yeah.
Well, I'd have to say the that moment when Longoria hit the home run, in game 162. What
Oh,
year was that? That was 2011.
oh, that was against us, I think. Yeah.
era.
Yeah.
It was, yeah. So it was,
That
let's
was
see, in Baltimore. The Red Sox were playing the Orioles in Baltimore, and they I think they had the lead, and the Orioles came all the way back and tied it up, and it was like going into extra innings, and then it started raining. And so they all went inside of the clubhouse to wait out this rain delay, and they were put on our game in Tampa. And yeah, was it against the Yankees?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And so they were watching, and I think that's when Longo
I
hit that hit that was it the walk-off homer, or maybe
think it was.
or I forget. I remember Dan Johnson, I think, tied it up with like a 2-run homer in the bottom of the ninth, and
Mhm.
then Longo hit the game winner in like the 10th inning or the 11th inning or something like that. That was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen on the field, because I remember this stadium erupting because I think that the Red Sox needed to then win
Mhm.
that game or something like that. And I think they they were in the clubhouse when Dan Johnson tied it up, and they're like, oh no. And then they had to go out there and like win it. But I
Mm,
think I remember whoever it was for the Orioles got a walk off against Uemura or something like that. and our stadium went bonkers in the middle of an inning in Tampa. And it was like, oh my God, something must have happened with the Red Sox game, and then like we all kind of found out. And then shortly after that, so they all went back in the clubhouse and watched Longo hit the game, the walk-off homer. That day was just unbelievable. That was like 162. And there's like a little shrine inside of like the Tampa Stadium and everything for it. But that was one of the most incredible moments I think I've seen. Also, BJ Upton, he hit for the cycle. He hit a whole bunch of homers in 2008. That was pretty incredible for the playoffs. That whole Tampa Bay playoff run was really incredible in 2008.
Would you say, I mean, of all the stadiums you played at, would you say Tampa Bay is one of the most intense, one of the loudest when it's packed with fans?
Well, Tampa's an interesting one, man, because we have a lot of Yankees fans and we have a lot of Red Sox fans around here. So a lot of times when it's packed at Tropicana, it's packed with the visiting side taking the bulk of the seats, I would say. I'd say as far as crowds, like crazy crowds, I mean, New York always has a full stadium, right? The Red Sox always a full stadium. Wrigley usually has a full stadium. Those kind of fields.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I don't know if you've seen the new Yankee Stadium. I've been to the Yankee Stadium. I find the old one to be much louder than the new one.
Okay.
And I remember because you brought up Tony Gwynn. I was at one of the World Series games in '98 when he lit up the Yankees. It was him, Greg Vaughn, and those other guys. They were just hitting bombs off David Wells. And that was tough. But when Tino hit that grand slam off Mark Langston, I've never heard the place that loud in my life.
Really?
Never. And places like in Tampa, it was a loud one too. That's why I was asking. And Wrigley, it's pretty loud. And those I think probably the crazy. And Philly here as well.
Oh yeah,
that's a pretty loud stadium too. So, but those types of experiences have been absolutely incredible. But it's nice to get a player's perspective on these things because we don't really get an opportunity to do that. So like, that's why I think these questions. I appreciate you spending time answering these questions, man, because it's really cool as a fan and a content creator to get these types of insights that we don't normally get.
There's definitely fields that players look forward to playing at, and then there's fields that players are like, oh my God, I have to go there, and I think I'm sure it's pretty subjective, but so it probably like differs from player to player, but I bet you there are some stadiums where a lot of players lean towards like, oh, this will be fun, like playing here, I'm sure like as a consensus, we would all agree on that.
Yeah, I think going back to that walk-off, I think it was Robert Adino, right, from the Orioles, I think, who hit that walk-off against the Red Sox.
Oh, say the name again?
I think Robert Adino, the shortstop.
Yeah, probably. I think so.
Yeah, I think it was him. I just looked it up. I think it was him. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What a day, man. That was incredible.
Yeah, but tell our fans. Obviously, you made your debut in 2008 with Tampa Bay. So tell our fans, what was that like? And you guys went to the World Series that year, 2008, to face the Phillies. And what was it like being part of that team and making your debut that year?
It was interesting getting up there that year. Let's see. I kind of had a blow to my ego coming out of spring training. I mean, I was just put on the 40 man, and I was put on the 40 man because in 2007 I had just had like the best offensive year of my life in Double-A. I think I was like second in the league in hitting, and that was me being a catcher. And so they put me on the 40 man. I'm like, cool, I'm going to go right to Triple-A. There's nobody else. Well, I mean, there's like another guy ahead of me, but having that good of a year in Double-A, definitely going to Triple-A next year. Mm-hmm. Last day of spring training, I look at the Triple-A roster, my name's not on it. And I'm just like, no way, and fire just started inside of me. And I remember catching coach grabbed me and like brought me into the minor league director's office because they knew this was going to happen. I mean, I was ready to explode. And to put together like a good baseball season like that and have to do it all over again is just, oh my God, so defeating. Anyway, he pulled me into the minor league director's office, and they just let me vent. They're like, hey, I know you saw that. Do you have anything to say? And I just started pointing my fingers around the room and blowing my lid. And they're like, did you get that out of your system? And I said, I think so. And they said, good. Now get back out there, work your ass off, and move your way back up because we have faith in you. Don't let this bring you, like, drag you down and end your career. We want you up here. Oh. Anyway, went back to AA, started the season a little bit bitter still, but I had a good coaching staff there that kind of like helped me along and everything. I mean, I didn't really need a therapist or anything. I don't sound like that, but it was just a defeating feeling, you know. And anyway, after a while, like got back to it, started my routine again, just started playing, having fun, started doing really well. All-Star break came around and they sent me right up to AAA. Played in AAA for a month, continued hitting well, continued just working and everything. And then September call-ups came around. And they're like, yep, you're going. So I went from repeating AA, just feeling completely defeated, to like 4 months later, whatever it was, 4 or 5 months later, getting the call up to the big leagues for the first time. So I felt proud of myself, you know, for not letting my emotions bury me, you know, kind of taking control and being better than a reaction I would have, you know, a disappointed reaction or whatever. I kind of took it and flipped it around the other way to make myself work harder and to enjoy where I was at instead of feeling bad about myself or where I was at. And it all paid off. Luckily, it doesn't always pay off, but in this instance, it did. And I felt really blessed that it did. Made it to the big leagues. Before you know it, I'm sitting in the dugout, leaning up against the rail, watching the World Series happen in front of me. So, you know, and then I ended up actually getting a ring at the end of it all. So it was one of the craziest roller coasters of a year, that 2008. And so you just really never know, especially in this game. I mean, it's like it works like that on such a big level of a season like that for one player. And it also works like that in every single day that you go out there and play. And that's what makes the game, I think, so great and so hard. How focused you have to be every single day for so many consecutive days in a row over an 8-month span, you know. Yeah, it's like macro and micro. It's like it works both ways.
Honestly, kudos to you for that. I mean, I can only imagine how it can consume you if you're not on that list, right? And then you immediately turn that into a positive and go after it again, which to me is one of the hardest things to do as a competitive athlete or professional athlete. Because I'm being a former competitive athlete myself, you know, like you can let that stuff consume you, right? But you quickly turn it around and say, you know, this isn't over yet. I'm going after it. Exactly what you did. Kudos to you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, that bitterness. I mean, it always happens. It happens to everybody. You know, we all get hit with that. But you do have to make it a conscious effort to let go of that bitterness because you know it's not doing any good. Even though you want to hold on to it really, really tightly because you think that you deserve something and you know that you deserve something, you still have to let it go. And yeah, I mean, shoot.
Yeah, you didn't let the anger consume you. You're like, let me prove the doubters wrong. Let me get this done.
Yeah.
Make this.
And that's right.
That to me is probably the hardest thing to do, which leads me to a question. I mean, I don't know if you can answer, but do you developmentally, is it tougher to go from AA to AAA or AAA to the majors?
AAA to the majors, I would say. And then even beyond that, staying in the majors, I think is even harder. I think a lot of people get called up or whatever, but staying there and for 5 years plus is, I think, the hardest thing. And I know, like, going from, like, I had a couple rehab stints where I had to go back down to AAA and play a couple games and go back up to the big leagues. And I know, like, going down to AAA and like facing the AAA pitching, I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, this is not big league pitching down here. So much different back up there. I think when you get called up to the big leagues for the first time, you just like have so much energy and it's such a rush that you don't really think about it. But then when you go back down, you're like, ooh, this is much easier down here, I think. Yeah. But for me, I think the hardest thing is not only making it to the majors, but staying there.
Yeah. I mean, you brought up pitching, which I was curious. What are some of the toughest pitchers you ever had to face at the majors?
I think it's like year to year. It depends on what pitcher is on that year. Like Wade Davis,
Oh,
he was unhittable for like 3-4 years. So I mean, he could throw anything he wanted explosively at like anywhere on the plate, wherever he wanted to throw, and it was like an explosive pitch, whatever it was. He was unhittable. It was like one of those guys, you go out there and you're like, I mean, I don't even know what you do. You can't hope for anything. You can't even hope for a walk. Like, he didn't walk anybody. And then there's also Arrieta. I mean, God, he was just unhittable there for a few years, and he was one of those guys where you just can't even see it coming out of his hand. I mean, I couldn't as a left-handed hitter. I don't know how right-handers felt, but I'm sure they probably had it even tougher. Those two guys I remember were just like, to me, absolutely unhittable. I mean, I'm sure there's a few others in there, but I got to catch a few. I mean, I got to catch, King Felix when he was on there for a while, and
Yeah.
he just, when I was catching him, I remember him throwing stuff and it's just like, wow, this is unhittable.
wow.
I remember seeing Garza a few times with his stuff that was just electric and explosive, not like unhittable. So
You ever catch
yeah.
Price?
Yeah, Price, definitely. I remember, like, for a few months there in a row, it's just like, oh my God, nobody's going to be able to touch this guy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I remember he was on the mound when they closed out the win, when you guys closed
Yep.
out to get to the World Series.
Yeah.
Remember that? That was cool.
Yes.
That whole postseason was just magical for the Rays until the World Series. But yeah, like the last series of the season and then the whole postseason up to the World Series was just magical. That was
So
cool.
we have another fan question for you that's popped up in our feed. The app. One of our fans want to know what led you to succeed against the Yankees pitching. Obviously, you were a Yankee killer when you guys played us, and they want to know. One of our fans want to know what led to that success.
Gosh, I don't know. Did the Yankees really have any left-handed starters? I might have just started a whole bunch of games against the Yankees. I don't know, but I do.
Ted Lilly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I guess there's a couple. I don't know. I don't know if there's like, if it's just the way that things kind of happen that most of my hits came against the Yankees, and that's just the way things work sometimes, or maybe it's just because that the Yankee Stadium, I could see the ball well there. Maybe that could very well have been it. Very conducive for left-hand hitters. I know when I was, let's see, I think when I was signing as a free agent, which I ended up signing with Pittsburgh, the Yankees were actually talking to me a little bit, and because I think they had just lost a left-handed first baseman or something.
Oh, it was well, not Overroad. They had a couple guys. I mean,
who was there was a switch hitter that maybe came over from the Padres?
Mark Teixeira.
They just lost to Shera, and then who was like the third baseman that came over from the Padres?
Chase Headley.
Headley. Yeah. So I don't know if they moved him to first base instead or something, but I think the Yankees were going to give me 1 year there but then the Pirates offered me 2. So then I took the
Oh,
Pirates.
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, man, it's something like that too. I mean, it's something as simple as I could see the ball well
hmm.
in Yankee Stadium. Because I know there's some stadiums where I do not see the ball well at. So
Man, I'm surprised. If the Yankees gave you two, oh man, we would. Oh, that's interesting. You could have been a Yankee, but I found so. Speaking of minor leagues, I found something interesting that some people that might not know about you. You actually started your professional career with the Yankees minor league team, Hudson Valley Renegades, 2003, 2004. So
yeah.
take us to that because I some people might not know about that.
Very cool.
Oh no. Yeah, out there in Poughkeepsie.
Yeah.
2 seasons out there. I loved it. It was awesome.
Well,
Oh.
the apple farms out there and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just beautiful out there. There was a river, a lot of long bus rides though, I think.
If I could, if I could ask you, I mean, baseball seems to be heavily reliant on analytics nowadays, right? A
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
different ways. I mean, was it different for you when you were playing as to how it is now with, I mean, I see a lot of folks with iPads in their faces and things like that. I mean, I almost feel like sometimes they lose a feel for the game with
Uh-huh.
they're overly reliant on. I could be wrong, but it's just an observation that I make myself on a regular basis. Was it different when you guys were playing? You know,
Yeah, I don't think the analytics really I don't think they really started coming into play until later on in my career. Which you did have to end up like studying more and taking that into more an account. And I think just like any other business, you kind of you have to adapt with whatever the organization wants.
yeah,
And even though this might be it might even though you might disagree with it, you still have to give it a chance and do it, whether you like it or not.
Mhm.
And I was never a big analytics guy,
Hmm.
and um, I liked going off of feel a lot more, and I think that it can muddy things up too much inside of your head. I mean, if you're thinking and playing baseball, you're not gonna be able to catch up with the speed of the game. I don't think. I think at a certain point you should have a really good feel of what you're capable of on a day-to-day basis because it might be different.
yeah,
Um, you know what I mean? Let's just take a pitcher, for example, a starting pitcher. One day, I mean, he starts every 5 days. One day, he might have really good control with his fastball, and then the next start, he can't find the zone with his fastball. So then all of a sudden, here I am going to a 3-0 count, which everybody in the world thinks he should be throwing a fastball down the middle, and I'm trying to call for a slider, and I know I just have this feel like I know he has better command with that slider in this today in this moment than he does with the fastball. And I think that's kind of a glaring example of feel, but I think it can go trickle down more um into the little things, like
yeah,
sequences that you're calling pitches in and everything. And I think that people can get really carried away with analytics, and especially hitters too. Like, what does this pitcher like to do? Well, he likes to go this way, like outside with left-handed hitters, soft stuff, and everything like that. And I think people start to forget what they want to do. And as a catcher, I mean, you have firsthand experience seeing how often pitchers make mistakes. So even though I'm set up like low and away on a lefty, how many times during a game am I set up down there and I'm reaching across my body to catch a ball that's like inner third on the left-handed hitter? Happens so often that as a catcher, they make mistakes. So why are you reading about him trying to hit this spot way down here that you're gonna like maybe go after? Stay in your strength. Like
yeah.
always, always stay in your strength.
That's
And I remember one day in AAA, I was in the batting cage and I was practicing off a tee, trying to hit the ball oppo, and Gary Gaetti goes walking by, and I'm the only one in the cage, and Gary Gaetti goes walking by, and he sticks his head in the cage. He's like, "Who's in there?" I'm like, "Oh man, it's just me." He's like, "What are you doing? What are you working on?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm trying to like hit this ball and take it the other way." He's like, "Yeah, but you're a pull hitter." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I got to be able to do this." He's like, "Why the hell would you ever hit the ball away from your strength? Never hit the ball away from your strength." He's like, "You're a good hitter, man. It'll happen. Like you going oppo will happen. Don't train your body to hit away from your strength." And I think that there's like a fair balance in that. Of course, you have to be professional and you have to like work on everything. But I think in his lesson, he was like, don't let that take over that part of your brain where you just want to like hammer a ball. And then there I am, like playing kind of defensive, like trying to do something that I don't really naturally do. And I'm taking away this option of me hitting something with all of my strength. And I think that's what he was trying to do. So I think that the analytics and everything kind of can get inside of players' heads and take them away from their strengths, because we all know our strengths. But it's trying to find that balance of also being aware of this other little piece. You know what I mean?
You said it perfect. You said it perfect.
But I do feel that in today's game, there's this importance of stats and computers, and that is being pushed. And in order for people to keep jobs, they have to mind it and make that a priority, if that makes sense, which I don't like in the game. I think it's taking away from a lot of the what do you call that? The rawness, the authenticity of the individual player in the game.
I think you said it perfectly with the balance too, because I think if you learn how to adopt a part of analytics where it could be helpful and not, and then attach that to what you're already good at and what you're familiar with. And as you as a catcher, you know your pitchers more than anybody. So and like adopting components of it where I think teams can kind of cherry pick how to use analytics, because every team is kind of built differently, and doing it in a way that, like you said, balances out. Because when you learn as a kid, you learn all the fundamentals of the game and all these types of things, and then throwing this different thing in there can kind of take it into a different direction, if that makes sense. And learning the balance of what, like Mr. Gaetti said, playing with your strengths, and maybe the analytics can help where you might be a little not as strong in this area, something like that, without it distracting from what you're already good at, if that makes sense at all. Like the balance, it's perfect. You said it perfectly with the balance.
Yeah. What I always wanted to know as a catcher, when approaching a game, on the daily, was who's hot in the lineup and who's not. And so you might think that like a 3-4 hitter are like the most dangerous hitters in the lineup, and like we don't want to pitch to them in like big scoring situations, things like that, right? But it might not be. It might be the number 7 hitter is hot right now for whatever reason, and we really want to look out for that guy. I just want to know. I just want to know those things. The number 3 or 4 hitter might not be hot right now, but they hit 3 and 4 because where else are you going to put a guy like Evan Longoria or something like that, or Mike Trout? Like, of course you're going to hit him there, even though he's 0 for 30. You're still going to put him there. And so even though he's 0 for 30, I might want to pitch to him with 2 guys, like with a runner on second base, and I know that this guy behind Mike Trout is hot, so I might want to call pitches to Mike Trout. So that's what I always wanted to know. And I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't really always big on analytics, and I kind of got myself into trouble, I think, with some teams, because I wouldn't sit there and like study for hours like a lot of catchers would do. And I think that I had some managers and some top brass like call me aside a few times and tell me like, hey, you aren't putting in the work. Like basically telling me that they're disappointed in me, that I'm not putting in this like analytical work. Well, I've always split as a catcher, right? With another catcher on the team, like whatever, a left-handed hitting catcher and a right-handed hitting catcher. So we split the games 50-50. So I went over to my, that was kind of hard for me to hear. And then so I went to my pitching coach and said, hey, are you able to pull up, stats of our catchers on the team and pull up ERAs? Like what are our catcher ERAs and what are our catchers wins loss records? And he pulled those up, and my numbers were better than the other catcher that I was splitting with and the other catcher beyond that. I had the best ERA and the best. My win record was positive. My ERA as a catcher was pretty good. It was like in the high threes or something like that. And I was like, well, this is like, I mean, this is a bunch of crap to me. You know what I mean? Like them calling, it was just because I wasn't showing that I was putting in all of this analytical work, that I was basically getting called into the principal's office. So I am a little bit like I guess jaded when it comes to that kind of stuff, because I know that the old way, like baseball still works the way that it's always worked. It still does. And but today's times, man, like things are changing, so you kind of adapt, I guess, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, like especially for speaking of analytics, it's not working for the Yankees. It hasn't been working for the past 3 years, and they got to make a change
No,
soon. But
no. And then I heard like, there's some teams that will win. Like what the Giants last year, didn't they have like some crazy they had a really good record, like
yes,
they had
100 wins, over
great
100 wins,
huh?
over 100 wins, and then this year they took a step back. So
Yeah, they took a step back, and I mean they're all praising their analytics and the I don't know, I guess everything that they went with, because I think that they did stuff with the hitters too. And the hitters, everybody was hitting so well, right? Everybody in the lineup was hitting so well. And then this year it went back totally the other way. There's no one way to skin a cat. And like, I think that things get taken far too extreme. And there's another element in the game of baseball that is just a great season. Like everything just kind of meshed and melded, and you can't really start pointing your finger at certain things and being like, this is why it happened. I think that there's a lot more to it than that. And I think like analytics gets the finger pointed at it so often right now.
I think it has its place in baseball, right? I mean, I think it does have its
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah,
like,
yeah.
but like just from my own perspective, I was, because I used to play baseball too. I went to the Bucky Dent scouting combine down in Florida, and it was a simulated. They have a mock Fenway Park, and the first pitcher I faced was Mark Pryor. Okay,
oh,
there was no amount of analytics that was going to prepare me for the nightmare of standing up to his fastball. It was 99 miles an hour. I've never seen anything like it in my life. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't think any amount of preparation would have prepared me for that. I said, damn, that I can only imagine what you see on a regular basis. Me, that scared the hell out of me. A 99 mile an
Yeah.
hour fastball. He's like 6'5". I'm 5'10". So, kind of a downward arcing fastball. His first pitch was 98 miles an hour. And I was not ready for that. I wasn't ready for that. I had to make adjustments. And I don't know how in the world I walked facing him, but I walked. Um,
Yep.
but and again, like analytics has its place, but I don't know how you could prepare for that stuff without seeing that stuff on a regular basis. We're not just getting reps and reps and reps and reps and practice and just learning the fundamentals of the game. So, but I mean,
It could be for some people. It could, maybe it's not for others. Like maybe it's just not
yeah.
for me. But when you start mentioning 99 miles per hour, and then you throw analytics and like, oh, he might do this, he might do that, you really don't have a chance in the in the box when you start thinking about all that stuff. When you get in the box, you really just have to trust your feel of the strike zone as a hitter. You really just have to trust your feel of the strike zone, trust your patience, and trust your hands. That's all you really got in there. That's all. That's your only arsenal you're carrying in there. This guy with the ball, he can choose anything he wants to try and do to you, and try and execute at you. And when you're a hitter, you're at the major league level, when you're facing 99 and you're facing it with movement and you're facing somebody like throwing a split finger off of 99, you are really just hoping that they make a mistake, and you're right, and you have to be ready for their mistake. So I could not stand hitters meetings. That was the worst. I could not handle it. I go in there, I zone out, I don't listen to a damn thing that they say, and then I go out there and I just trust myself. Because all of that stuff, like, oh yeah, see, here's this curveball, here's this and that, it doesn't matter. Like, you aren't hitting that like nasty hammer. There's no way. I mean, of course, there's some guys, they're like elite, they're like the elite of the elite. There's like the top, you know, 5% of the players in the big leagues. Those are them. But for the rest of us, we're in there just like everybody else. Like what you're saying, like, oh my God, this is absolutely exploding out of his hand. There's no way I'm looking like down there, like low and away. The only thing that you can do is trust your hands and trust your timing. If your timing is on, it all of hitting, I think, starts in the batter. Like for the game, it starts in the batter's box. Sure, you get loose and everything, but in the batter's box, or I'm sorry, the on deck circle, that is where your studying comes into play. And that's really all of the studying that I think you need to do. If you're advanced enough to where you've got everything else down, right? Like you got your load position, you're a professional, you've been doing it for years, and you got all that stuff down, all the physical parts, right? Then your studying should happen in the on deck circle, and that's where you're watching the guy and you're getting your load back and you're getting your foot down and you're timing those pitches coming out of his hand. You're looking at his release point, all of that stuff. That's where your studying comes into play, because when you get in that box and you get your load, you want your timing to be right on point on that first pitch of your at bat. Because if it's right there and he misses his spot and leaves it up or anything like that, you want to be able to react on it. So really, I don't think that the studying happens inside, because you start like thinking about like, yeah, he's going to try and do this and do that and that. I know as a catcher, I might not call those pitches like that to a left-handed hitter, and then to the next one do the same exact thing. I might do the complete opposite. I mean, I remember like facing Roy Halladay and like, oh my God, 4 at-bats, 4 completely different approaches. And I was just like, dude, you are just one of the best pitchers I've ever faced. I never ever want to see anybody like you on the mound ever again. And he just diced me up 4 at bats, 4 completely different ways. Wow. So if you start getting in your head about, oh, this is how he approaches people, and reading all the analytics, then I mean, you could totally take away all of your opportunity to get something that you would want. You're basically playing to the pitcher's hand instead of your own hand, I think.
That makes
RIP to Roy Halladay. Rest in peace. Just devastating to see what happened to him.
Yeah.
And he's obviously one of the best pitchers in the game. And just to switch gears here a little bit, tell our fans. Obviously, you played catcher, but you also played first baseman a little bit, obviously. And I have a friend now who's currently playing in the major leagues. He plays for the Angels. His name is Matt Dice, and we go back together in high school, and he played in our high school, Jackson Memorial, and I watched him play throughout his career. He's a heck of a hitter, and now he's a catcher and first baseman too. So for you, how long did it take you to transition from being a catcher to a first baseman?
Shoot. Well, I mean, I guess I stopped catching, and then I DH'd with Tampa for a year, and then Pittsburgh signed me over there. But it didn't take long, man. I loved the transition. I loved still having a glove on my hand and going out there and fielding ground balls. And I mean, I always kind of goofed around my entire career, like taking ground balls and like during batting practice and everything. So I was prepping for this moment my entire career. But I loved it, man. And the best thing, you still got an umpire right there you can kind of chit chat with, and like, first base coach, like guys who get on first and all that. And I loved it. I mean, baseball is sometimes it's boring to watch when you're not really doing anything. And first base, you're always kind of involved. You're right there up in the action. So yeah, man, I loved it. I loved making some plays and turning turning double plays from first base, and made a couple where, you know, runner on first and charging in hard, grab the ball, throw it down to second base to get the lead runner at second.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of fun, man. As long as people keep baseball fun, I think that's the most important thing. And and you can pretty much like take on any challenge in baseball as long as you keep it fun. I mean, even those moments when it's like, you know, bottom of the ninth and you have to hit, um, making sure that that stays fun also. I try to treat everything the same in baseball. So whether that for that example, like whether it was my first step out of the game or my last step out of the game, they both carry the same importance, you know, and that keeps that roller coaster kind of a little bit, you know, milder. That's not to say that you don't get up there in the ninth inning and your heart starts pounding a little bit, but in my head, I'm preparing myself that, you know, this is just the same as my first at bat of the game, and um, and I keep the same kind of importance, but it keeps the fun. So yeah.
It's kind of cool as a fan too to see a catcher transitioning to first, because sometimes you adopt your, if a ball's thrown at you a little while, you're adopting your catching skills right away to get something.
Yeah, yeah.
So to me, the current transition is really, really cool to
No,
see.
you're right. I remember Rizzo, man. It was
Anthony
like my
Rizzo.
last senior. He hit the scorcher at me, man. Yeah, he turned. I'm like, I see him up there. I'm like, dude, you're just gonna eat me up over here, aren't you? Right? You know, I just know. I'm all the way like back on the cut of the grass, you know, as far back on the infield as I can get. But I just know he's gonna open up on this ball, and he did, and he hit a scorcher, and it was like a top spinning line drive, and it bounced probably like 4 feet in front of me or whatever. And I think I took a half step to the right and centered it up like a catcher, and it hit me off the center of the chest, and then bounced and like just like I was blocking a ball, and then bounced like, you know, 2 feet in front of me, and I ran over to it, picked it up, and shoveled it to the pitcher, cover in the bag. But I could just see it happening, man. And it was one of those things where instincts took over, and I just went in front of it, took it off the chest, knocked it down, and got the out at first. And
See,
yeah, but you're right, man. Yeah, I think for catchers, yeah, this transition to first is kind of a cool one.
yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
oh,
So now
sorry.
I'm just gonna say they're hitting the ball as hard as they were throwing the ball to you as a catcher.
Right.
You get
Yeah,
some
yeah, for sure.
fast. That's really cool, man. One of the coolest things ever.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we'll take one more fan question. This is a funny one actually. One of my good friends is in here. His name is John, and same name as you. One of my they want to know. So me and my friends, we love to party. So here in Jersey. So but he wants to know, do you know any? He wants to know any good like clubs down in St. Pete near you guys.
Oh, clubs like going out?
Yeah.
Oh. Man, there used to be some good ones back in the day when I played with the Rays, like back in 2008 and 2009. But they've kind of closed down, and St. Pete's kind of gone like the hipster route, I would say more. And so there's a lot of really cool breweries down here now. Central Avenue has a lot of really cool restaurants and breweries. I mean, there's got to be like 10 to 15 breweries downtown now. It's
Wow.
really cool. Yeah, yeah, I love St. Pete now. And as far as clubs go, I mean, there's a few down. Like there's a Canopy, which I like a lot. I like a good rooftop bar. And Canopy is really great because it looks over Tampa Bay. And then there's a few other ones, like if you like louder music, I guess Saigon. But Janice Landing has always been a staple here in St. Pete. It's the music venue right in the heart of downtown, and that continues to be my go-to whenever somebody good comes through, which we're having a lot of good bands come through right
Nice.
now. And yeah, I love live music, so that's usually where I go to, Janice Landing.
Nice.
That's very, very cool. We don't really get much of that in New York. No beachfront bars in New York. So
Oh man, St. Pete, I love St. Pete. Yeah, I'll never move
Hey,
away
it's
from here.
it's like a mini Vegas, you know.
Yeah, a little bit. It's got a little bit of everything. And then if you want to go to Tampa, you got Tampa right across the water, and you got the beach right here. You got downtown. It's just I feel like it's got a little bit of everything.
Very cool, man. Very, very, dude. This has been a treat, man.
Yeah,
If you ever get it, if you ever have time and you're interested, I'd love to have you as a guest on my channel. We can talk about baseball and stuff. So if you ever,
Yeah, man. Hit
so
me up.
so the last two things here, our team is part of this foundation. It's called the Hugh Jackson Foundation. He's a former NFL coach. He's coaching at Grambling State University now, and we're trying to help him prevent human trafficking, and making the community more safer. And we'll send you the foundation so you and your girlfriend can check it out.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great.
And the last thing here, would you like to say anything to all the nurses, doctors, and all the essential workers right now?
Oh yeah. Well, just thank you for all your work you've been doing for these last couple years. And it's been a confusing time for I think everybody. Nobody really has a good grasp of what's going on or what the future holds. But I guess you guys are just like the bedrock of keeping everything stable, I would say, and keeping the sanity here. So big thank you to you all for all of the effort and all of the devotion and sacrifice you've done.
Yeah, well said. And I just want to say thank you, John, for joining us. And definitely go on Jason's show, 161 River Ave. He does a great job there. So go on his show. And there's another show I would recommend you going on. My friend Julian from Out in the Field One podcast. He has a great podcast. I'll send that to you. Go check that out. You should definitely go on his show too. And big shout out to Julian and his coworkers too. And but John, thank you for joining us. This was a treat, like Jason said, and you gave us good information on analytics today. That was awesome. But, keep up the great work. And I love your posts, man. You guys keep it entertaining. You bring the swag to Instagram. You and your family, and keep it up, man.
Yeah, if anybody wants to check out our sailing stuff,
Yeah,
my girlfriend and I, yeah, we start sailing around the Caribbean, and we have a Instagram and a YouTube channel that's kind of going on right now. It's Tipsy Nomads
yeah.
with two Y's in there. So
oh, I love that.
Hey, go check that out now because they bring you some entertaining stuff. I followed you guys on that, and obviously you guys were on a vacation trip, and you were living the dream on a boat, and you guys that was awesome. That was awesome to see.
thanks, man.
That's
Yeah.
cool. That's cool, man.